And welcome again to the Dave LewAllen Podcast. We cover sports stories, newsmakers, and difference makers in our communities and across the state of Michigan. And today, we welcome a familiar face. If you watched Channel 7 for years, you saw Tom Leyden on your television, along with me, of course. If you weren't watching Channel 7, why not, right? Is the question we always ask. But Tom Leyden is here, back in town. He was with us from 2004 to 2015, if I remember correctly.
You got it right.
Then moved to Boston. He is back in our state now to visit. Your daughter is at Michigan State University.
Yeah, amazing.
You're wearing a Boston College wind shirt.
It's a big weekend.
Yeah.
I have to represent my alma mater this weekend, and I know this is probably going to air afterwards, but, got to rep the alma mater. Listen, I have a great description of myself. I appreciate the introduction. I consider myself the very small piece of meat between two legendary buns, right? You have Don Shane, who was there for an era, and now it's really the Brad Galley era.
Yeah.
And I was blessed, as were you, to work with both those guys. And it's amazing to think that between the two of them, I mean, they go back to the early 80s of covering sports here in Detroit. And we were fortunate to work together. I learned so much from you and from so many of my other colleagues. And when Dahlia, my daughter who goes to Michigan State, said that she was interested in maybe going to college here in this state, I was like, wow, the antenna went up. And I said, this might be fun. This might be great. So it's been interesting to have to pick a side, right? Because we're always very neutral in terms of our coverage, whether it was Michigan or Michigan State. But throwing on the green and white and sitting in Spartan Stadium, I really hadn't done that before last year. So there I was in the stands cheering on the Spartans, and it felt a little different.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get into your career, what you're doing now. But again, the time in Detroit, you came in 2004 from Pennsylvania, as I recall. I moved from sports to news full-time in 2004. You came in with Vic Faust and, again, worked with Don and, our great producers, Reggie and Ray J and Greg Halushka at that time as well. But, brought in as a sports anchor reporter, eventually replaced the legendary Don Shane as sports director until the time that you left to go to Boston, a decision that you made career-wise. But as you reflect on your time in Detroit, what did it mean to you?
Amazing era that I would never have predicted. And I can point to a specific conversation that really changed my perspective. And it didn't come too far into my tenure because it was October of 2004 that I started. So the college football season had already begun. And one of the first weekends that I was here, we went up to cover Michigan State and Minnesota that year. And I was with Jerry Terrian, another legendary photographer. And among the many great things that Jerry shared with me over the years was he just assumed I was going to live here forever. He, in that moment, said, you've made the right choice. You're going to love it here. It's a fantastic place to raise your family. I can't wait for you to set down roots. And when I heard that, I was like, what's he talking about? Because I never in my mind thought that this was going to be a long-term solution or a long-term place. And that changed so dramatically. I mean, I'll tell you this much honestly, if Detroit was not 800 miles removed from the rest of my family, I would likely still be here. There came that moment in time where the kids were 7 and 9 years old. It's like, okay, we're either staying here forever. Right. So are we ready to make that decision? Or are we going to move back closer to the East Coast so we could be closer to our families, parents aging? They've since passed since 2015. So it was a difficult decision. And then, the career aspiration played into it a little bit, but so much fun. Incredible memories and contacts that I made here, both inside and outside the building. And I love bragging about it. Trust me, when people on the East Coast talk about Detroit and sometimes they don't really know what they're talking about, I love telling them the stories of how great this city really is.
Well, you made a tremendous impact here, with the work that you did on the air and, the connector that you are in terms of people. And yes, I'm sure that phone contact list has lots of people from Southeast Michigan, Detroit, still in it.
Oh, it's fun. I still exchange some text messages with people here in Detroit. For instance, Chris Draper, his birthday is the same day as my daughter, Dahlia. So we have a tradition, or at least I do. I send him a text message that he replies to every May 24th. But I get a kick out of that. I do my eyes are opened wide sometimes when I come back and I see some of the people who I hold in high regard welcome me back with open arms. Folks like Darren McCarty, folks like TJ Lang, of course, all of the people who cover sports in this region. We compete, yes, but we're all in the same boat and we're all rowing in the same direction. So I think that there's that respect between the people who do the same job, and everyone's always happy to see me when I do come back. And I had the chance to do that a couple of times when the Patriots came into town, and that was a lot of fun to go to Ford Field. Trying to think of who else I've run into. Oh, Rick Mahorn was coaching a Big Three team back at TD Garden in Boston. And sure enough, I went to the post-game news conference and I had my daughter Olivia with me. And I asked a question, and only the style of Rick, as you know, right? Rick goes, "Hey, is that your daughter?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Good thing she looks like her mama." You know what I mean? So that's fun. You know, the fact that you make an impact and people remember who you are. Nobody remembers who I am more than Michigan football fans, though. And that goes back to one of those incredibly emotional and amazing days that we shared together was the day after Bo passed in 2006. And it was basically you, Ray Saya, and me, and maybe somebody doing weather for about 2.5 hours. And people still talk to me about how we covered Bo's passing and everything that followed.
Yeah, amazing and emotional time for sure. You know, he was in our building every week, you know, doing those pregame shows. And, you know, sadly, that's where he collapsed. And yes, the aftermath because of, I mean, who it was, Bo Schembechler, you know, one of those legendary figures for sure. All right, you're back now for a visit, but you left Detroit to go back to the East Coast, to Boston, and you worked at the Fox affiliate as sports director there. You mentioned the Patriots, and we'll get into that, but you covered Super Bowls and Super Bowl wins while you were there. We're still waiting for that here in Detroit.
It'll be magic. Trust me, when that happens, this entire region's going to go ballistic. And when you talk about how passionate Michigan fans are for Detroit, one of the things that I try to express to people in New England is like, you have to understand Michigan is like all of New England, like from Maine to Connecticut.
Yeah.
That's Michigan. So it's just a vast amount of space. And I always got a kick out of the fact when we were the Lions official partner and I was working on the sidelines or maybe hosting the pregame shows and postgame shows, I'd be up in Traverse City. You're talking 5.5 hours away from where you live. And someone at a bar will be like, "Hey, Tom, how you doing?" It's like, whoa, you know, that's where it really strikes you, the impact that you have working for the Lions network and also how popular that team is. So to your point, when and if that time comes, well, first of all, my daughters have said, "Dad, we got to go." So each of the last 2 years, I've been like peering at some flights. And I will say going to Las Vegas was a lot easier than going to New Orleans. So I wasn't too sad that it didn't happen last year. But, you know, San Fran will be fun this year. Let's see if we can get it done.
Yeah. That'll be great. All right. So the Boston thing happens and then it ends. Your time in television, at least at that moment, is over. They make a decision that they're moving some people out. You happen to be one of them, not because of the job that you did or didn't do, but because of the changing landscape of local television. We see it here in Detroit. Certainly you saw it in Boston. So at that point, Tom Leyden had to figure out, am I staying here? Is there another opportunity in television? If not, what do I do next? And you're not alone in that. Many people have faced decisions like that. One opportunity ends. Where do I go from here? The transition. Tell me about how you dealt with that.
Great question, and thanks for asking it. I didn't prepare for this, but I'll share with you what my thoughts were at the time. First of all, devastating to your morale, to your ego. It is, for better or worse, how you're defined and known publicly as the TV guy.
Sure.
So you take pride in the work that you do, and all of a sudden there's that perception, whether it's in your face or under the current, that like, oh, he must not be good enough, right? No matter whether or not I was let go for financial reasons or not, there's always going to be that public perception of like, oh, well, he must not be good enough.
Well, he was.
Right.
He is.
Well, and that case,
Yeah.
you have to
But
deal
it doesn't
with
make it any easier.
No, you have to deal with it. And, luckily I was aggressive in figuring out how to manage the system, right? There are protections in place for reasons. When all of a sudden you're unemployed, guess what you collect? Unemployment, right? And you have to figure that out. And I would have just preferred a little bit of warning to know that, hey, a week from now, you're going to need to making some phone calls you're probably not prepared to make.
Yeah.
But you learn quickly. And I had a pity party, just as anybody would in that situation. Like, oh boy, what am I going to do? Big market, number one job. I didn't really want to take a number two job and all of a sudden be working on weekends and holidays nonstop again. Right. Sort of past that phase of my career, I thought. There's not a lot of those number one jobs in any market.
That's
so
right.
It's not like I can just hop across the street and go work at another station. And then as I did some interviewing and talked to some people, you learned, not that you didn't have an indication beforehand, but that the grass is not always greener across the street. And after I got through about 3 months of figuring out, do I want to hang on as a television personality or not? It was my sister Peg who said, you know what, come on over for dinner. And that was probably January of 2022. And the layoff was September of 2021. And it was really the loving advice of a sister who was bold enough to look at the big bad TV guy and say, like, you know what, there's a lot more you can do than just talking to a camera. And I just needed that shot in the face, from somebody that loves you. And I said, okay, that redirected me, and that set me on the new path to feel comfortable leaving TV behind. Unfinished business a little bit, but as I looked at the landscape, I was like, it's okay. I probably have about 15, 16 more years to work, and I don't know if I want to work in that industry anymore.
All right, so the new chapter we'll get into, which is really exciting. His LinkedIn profile lists, television, but it also lists publisher, entrepreneur, connector, brand development, and now you're all of those things because of your work on a publication called Westwood Living. Westwood is the town in Massachusetts, small town, I guess, but you're a magazine publisher.
It's awesome. So, I love it. It's crazy.
So how does this happen?
It really is fascinating. So Westwood is 12 miles outside of Boston. Is where we live. And the reason we moved there is because it was close to the station, right? It was easy to commute, had a good school system. For 8 years or whatever it was, 7 years, it was just the place I lived. And I was a bit engaged because my kids went to school there, but I wasn't really in tune with business owners in the town or how the nuts and bolts of business in the town worked. And so I saw the company I work with is Best Version Media, and they are based out of Wisconsin. And it's almost like this is how I start a sales pitch. If you can imagine it in your mind, I'm in essence like a franchisee. So think you're in a Dunkin' Donuts. There's an individual or a company that owns that Dunkin' Donuts, but they do their business operations using the infrastructure of Dunkin' Donuts corporate headquarters. Similarly, we do our business as an independent business using the infrastructure of Best Version Media, a company that's based in Wisconsin and has more than 1,400 publications across North America, from Miami to Vancouver, British Columbia. So each of us, as independent contractors, are publishers in our own communities, and we run our own businesses. So we're in charge of developing the content, finding the stories to share with the community, and the big thing, selling all of the sponsorships because it's sponsor driven.
Yeah. So it's filled with great stories about the community and the people who live in the community, but it's also filled with advertising. Your advertising marketing partners, and you had to hit the pavement.
Oh yeah.
And sell yourself and sell this magazine to business owners, businesses in Westwood, in order to make this happen for yourself.
And it's not unique to me. And I'm sure people who are watching this might be living in communities where there probably is a publication like this that's aimed at you and showcases people in your community, because it works. I mean, when you're talking to a business owner, and the analogy I use is, listen, if you identify Westwood as a pond, and there are fish in that pond, do you want to catch those fish? Well, of course. Right, well, you kind of have to keep a line in that pond all the time. And so that's what we do. We're going to keep you present in a really positive environment in that pond, so that if and when that person feels compelled to make that purchasing decision, they know who you are.
Right.
So we're a brand builder. We're a top of mind awareness partner. And it's been fantastic because, of course, I'm clearly leaning more towards the content drive success because that's our background. So I work very, very hard with developing the content because I want to be an unavoidable media source in town.
Meaning you want everyone to be part of this.
I want people to look forward to it. I
Yeah.
want them to know that it's high end. We've got a great photographer, Rick Byrne, who's been with me since the very beginning, and our covers are fantastic, and the feature shots inside are great, and the writing is good. We've got about 5 or 6 people who help us every single month writing. I write myself a lot. So it's a combination of all the skills that you build up over the course of 30 years, and the career started in sales and marketing at the NFL and then at the NHL. So I had some of that in my background. And you find with any next chapter, the key is how do you apply what you've learned
Right.
over those 30 years to whatever you're doing next.
But you have been, and you'll tell me how successful with this, but you have been very successful with Westwood Living. But that's only because of how hard you've worked at it. We went to Boston. Tom Leyden is my guest on the Dave LewAllen Podcast, friend and former colleague at Channel 7 for years and years. We went to Boston for the retirement trip for one of our colleagues, Craig Moreland, and a couple other friends were with me. And while we were there for, we went to the Cape, but we were in Boston for several days. And I called Tom and, hey, Tom, could you meet us at so-and-so? Hey, Tom, tomorrow we're going to be at so-and-so. Hey, Tom, on Thursday, we're going to be, oh, sorry, got an appointment. Oh, sorry.
Was this 2022? It was probably 2022.
Sorry, I can't, and you were unavailable, not because you didn't like
Right,
us, but
yeah.
because you were hustling
Yeah.
to try to make this thing happen. And if you didn't work as hard as you did at it, you wouldn't be as successful as you have been so far with this magazine.
It's been pretty good. It's been very rewarding. I think a lot of people in the community have enjoyed it. I think the content background clearly helps.
Sure.
You spend 25 years telling stories. You kind of know what hits home. And then the funniest part, or the most ironic part, and really great part, is that the more you literally spend time in the community getting to know people, the better it is for business. Crazy to think, but true. So I engage with our local community access station, and we call a lot of the Westwood High School athletic events and broadcast those, more than 123 broadcasts. So to me, it's the more allies you can have in town working in the same direction, the better it can be for everybody. So I've embraced them as really good working partners. Worked really hard to develop a website so that people can keep up to date with information in the town every day.
Yeah.
Have my own podcast, not video, but more audio, that really spotlights the business owners, gives them an opportunity to talk about themselves. And then that turns into a business profile, which appears in the next edition.
So it's not just a matter of you run an ad and that's the end of it.
No.
I mean, there is engagement with clients. I mean, you have events that clients and others come to. I mean, you're very much engaged for the benefit of your partners.
Yeah, the events are a lot of fun, and the events are really powerful for the partners because they know, in essence, I'm serving as a little mini chamber of commerce. So they don't have to do anything except show up and know that there's going to be probably 50 to 60 other business owners there. So they're going to get business from each other just by virtue of them getting to know each other better and have a better understanding of what they do. So very casual setting, cocktails, food at probably one of my local restaurant partners. And it's great for them. But of course, I want to be the person, and I want our company to be the company that throws great parties for the community, that people in town are like, oh, here comes another Westwood Living party. We have to go buy our tickets.
Yeah.
Right. And so that becomes part of it as well. So we just got done about a week and a half ago hosting our annual summer party, and we had 300 people there. Beautiful tent, beautiful furniture, live band, all you could eat, all you could drink, caricatures, face painting, ice cream, games for the kids. It was ridiculous, but it's rewarding to see the town come together. And what I pointed out to all the sponsors, because they then spend some additional money to help offset the cost of the party. So they're sponsoring specific things within that event. Somebody sponsors the cups and gets their logos on the cups. Somebody sponsors the napkins and their logos are on the napkins. Well, when you stack those all up and you bring in $11,000 worth of sponsorship that's directed right for that party, it truly becomes a party that this family of sponsors is throwing for the community. And it's my job then to communicate that to the people of the community, saying like, hey, these companies are showing a love for you. They want to be engaged with you, and they want to be a part of creating positive memories for you. So, hey, next time you need your lawn cut or you need some work done outside, whether it's a new roof or new landscaping or hardscaping.
Or trees trimmed.
Trimmed, right? Call one of the sponsors who are creating all of this for you. That's the bottom line essence of it. Now, really, if you break it down to the core, it's a very glorified direct mail piece for these companies.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. So these covers, and you mentioned, these are all people that live in the community, right?
Yeah.
And, whether it be high school students or college students, business owners, or the like, they're the ones that are featured on the covers and in the magazine. The next issue that comes out is interesting because, of the sports background, the years in television, covering the New England Patriots and all of their Super Bowl appearances and victories during even in your time in Boston. Tell me about the cover of the next Westwood Living magazine.
Wild. So yeah, if you're watching this now, you can literally go to westwood-living.com and get a little taste of what we're talking about. So I got an email. I remember the date. It was March 11th. And I was sitting at my desk, and Danielle, who's here in the studio today, was across the room in her typical evening position on the couch watching television. And I read the email, and it was from Vernon Cheek at Fox Sports in LA. And I didn't yet know exactly how he knew who I was, but he said, just want to gauge your interest in whether or not you might want Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman on the cover of Westwood Living. Right? So you read that.
Super Bowl champions?
Right? You read that once, and then you read it again. You're like, should I say this out loud to Daniel? Like, am I really reading this? And obviously I know those guys because I did have the good fortune of covering them for 7 years, but it breaks the mold. It's not the formula, right? I'm like, how does that work? Like, what are we going to do there? And so I asked Daniel, what do you think about Gronk and Julian being on the cover of Westwood Living? And she, without hesitation, she said, hell yeah. Right? So now you got to figure it out. So I call my photographer, and he, again, phenomenal guy and a trusted colleague and friend and confidant. And I said, hey, I just got this email. Like, what do you think? And he gave the typical Rick Byrne answer immediately. He goes, they don't live in Westwood. And I'm like, I know. I know. But what do you think? And so he sat on that for a little while, and within 2 minutes, his idea was, I got it. You need to be on the cover with them because I live in Westwood, right? And so I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to put myself on the cover of this thing. That's not going to happen. Yeah. But it spurred the idea, and it's exactly what we're talking about, of I got it. They're transitioning to the next chapter of their careers. Mm-hmm. I had to transition to the next chapter of my career. How do you apply the lessons of what you did, no matter what you did, whether you were a superstar athlete becoming a novice broadcaster, right, or whether you were a broadcaster becoming a novice publisher? How do you turn that into success? And how do you take the lessons that you learned and make that work? And then you look in the mirror and you look at your photographer, you're like, well, of course I can tell this story, right? Of course I can do a great job telling this story. And this is a great gift that's been given to both of us. And it was a challenge to Rick to shoot phenomenal photos and have these guys come into a studio. So sure enough, we got it going. I crossed my fingers the whole time. And May 28th, they came into town and we set up a 3-camera shoot video podcast. And I mean, here they come rolling into Rick Byrne's studio. And it was a cast of many thousands there. And I wasn't nervous to talk to them, but where the small business owner aspect comes in is that you're doing everything, right? So you're handling all logistics. And that's what you get nervous about. You want to make sure everything's exactly right. I don't have a team that has been developed to the point where something like that is routine. Yeah. So I was anxious about that whole aspect of it. And it went off without a hitch. And so since then, they wanted me to sit on it until September so that it would really be released at the start of the football season. But the core of the message and why they're on, besides telling the story in the manner I told you, is that they're the face of the future. Right. You know, Jimmy Johnson just retired last year from Fox Sports. Terry Bradshaw is in his late 70s, right? So how many more years does he have? So Fox is developing their next level of talent that are going to be seen nationally for many years to come. And in the words of Vernon, I want to get these guys in front of as many adoring eyeballs as possible. And trust me, there are many people who live in Westwood who adore Gronk and Jules. So it will be read. It will be...
But nice that they would reach out to
Yeah.
you, though,
Crazy.
from LA in order to make this happen and to be one of those outreach opportunities for those two guys.
Yeah, really amazing.
I mean, that's cool.
Very cool, nerve-wracking, as I said, and you got to make sure that you're on your A game. And I think that that was part of it too, that Vernon knew that I was an established journalist and a person who could handle this type of story. I had to send a couple of, back issues to him to make sure that it met the muster. And he's like, yeah, we're good. He's like, we'll do this.
Yeah.
And then it was a challenge for everybody involved, right? And we loved doing it. And, it's been a great project, and it'll be fun to see how people receive it and the feedback that we get from it. And it's been awesome so far.
Yeah. All right. Last word on the magazine, because I got a couple other things I want to get to. But that issue, 100 pages.
Ridiculous, right?
I mean, when you started, and I've got some of the
Oh, do you have early one?
Well,
Started with 20.
earlier, but
Okay.
I mean, that's not 100 pages, but you have grown incrementally over the months. I mean, 100 pages. I mean, there's 1,400 of these.
Yeah.
Best version, as I say,
Yeah,
right?
Best Version Media
magazines. You got to be, one of the most successful, I would think.
It's my understanding that the 100-page one is a record in terms of largest single issue in Best Version Media's history, and they started in 2007. Now, mind you, that was a very special issue. What I did is I hit up a lot of my existing partners and said, listen, if you ever thought about going big, this is the issue to go big. So I had a lot of people upgrade their ad size. I'm going to go back down to 80 pages for the October issue. And the 80-page count is, at this stage, the second biggest one in North America. Park City, Utah. Betsy DeMann, she's a legend. She has a 96-pager that she rolls out there every single month. That's impressive. I'm on her mailing list, as you're on my mailing list, which I appreciate.
Yeah, that's right. Well, congratulations on the success of this. It's fantastic. I applaud you. The transition, going through what you went through. A kick in the face for sure. But what you've done in the next chapter is fantastic, and I'm glad that you're here to be able to share the story, because I think it can be helpful to others as well, as it is even with Gronk and Edelman as they transition. I mean, many people are faced with challenges and obstacles or a next chapter, and how do you do it? I mean, but the bottom line is it's work ethic, it's determination, right? It's not going to quit. I mean, those are elements that you have to have, right?
Yeah, you really should go to the website, westwood-living.com, and read their quotes, because I was very impressed with their humility and the way they said they learned. And the things that they learned as players, which sound maybe silly or stupid, that is like, repetitions matter. And they practice, like they literally practice with each other. So it's that point of just taking the skills that you've learned in whatever you've done before and applying them to whatever's done next. And yeah, good point that it happens to most of us. If it didn't happen to you yet, number one, you're fortunate. Number two, it's likely.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And some are forced, but some people are just ready for a change too. But again, how do you go about it? All right, you're hustling and you're making things happen. You got a side gig too, and earlier you'd mentioned working with the NFL. And the NHL. You got a fun little thing that you are also involved with the NFL, and again, your broadcast experience plays a role here. But we watch the games on television, the NFL games. But we don't see the game the way that you are now seeing the game as a NFL game representative. I mean, as best you can, explain the role that you play in telecasts that people at home, you and others, the role you play in making sure that broadcast goes on without a hitch.
It's fascinating. And if you ever spent a game with me as I did this, you would never watch an NFL game the same way ever again, because there's obviously a business associated with the NFL.
Sure.
And there has to be a certain amount of breaks that get into every game. So the key is those breaks need to be taken at the right time and not the wrong time. So there needs to be somebody, and there are many people, because there's a lot of people backing each other up, who can keep the broadcast on the rails and make sure that it's a good viewing experience. So my role as a game rep is I represent the NFL, and I'm the liaison from the league office to the production truck, whether that be Fox, CBS, NBC, Amazon, ESPN. Did I miss anybody?
Well,
There's a lot,
time,
right?
yeah.
Netflix. And that associate director's in the truck, and we are communicating directly with the guys on the field who, if you've been to a game, you've probably seen the person wearing the green hat, who's affectionately known as the green hat, and the person who's wearing the orange sleeves, affectionately known as orange sleeves, and they communicate with the officiating department. And so the concept is we have to get all of the commercial breaks into this telecast.
It is a business.
And there are some teams that when you get them, you're like, oh boy, this is going to be tough. When Derrick Henry's your running back and you're the Ravens, you know that they're going to run the ball a lot.
Yeah,
and when a team runs the ball a lot, that means that the clock's going to run. So it's going to be difficult to get those breaks in. So there are certain things where, always conscious of, and who's playing is a big one. Why this has expanded and includes me is fascinating, because the league only used to send game reps in person to the most prominent games, which included Thursday, the 425 game on Sunday, the Sunday night game, and the Monday night game. So a broadcast game rep would be at those games. Well, then COVID hit and people couldn't travel, so they had to figure out a way to do it remotely. And so the geniuses in tech figured out a way to send the satellite signal from the production trucks through an Apple TV box to your living room. So now you're able to do this job remotely, communicating with people through your phone. So you're talking to the AD and the two guys on the field through your phone while you're watching the game on two monitors, the broadcast version of the game and what we call the All 29, because it includes the officials. And you're just keeping the game on the rails. It's really crazy. And so once that technology existed,
Right.
They said, well, we should do every game. Now that we know we can do this, we should do every game, because when you really think about it, sometimes as ADs and everybody else on the production truck are coming up the ranks, they're learning.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so the guys who are at the top of the food chain, they're the A team, the B team, they've done thousands of games. So they know the rules almost as well as the game reps do. And sometimes the people who are doing the lower level games are eager for the council of people who have been doing this for a while.
So bottom line, you have to get in somebody's ear at some point saying, hey, we need to get a commercial in. First opportunity, and then do you literally say go?
Yeah, what ends up happening is that, listen, the perfect game is when you have to say nothing. If you can sit there and the people who are running the game on location don't even need you, fantastic. But where it becomes nerve-wracking is that as the representative of the league, you're sometimes inevitably in any game going to be asked a question, and you better have an answer, and hopefully the right answer, within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So you're always thinking that way. You're thinking hypothetically. What am I going to do if there's an incomplete pass here? What am I going to do if it's a run that stays in bounds here? There's always things you're thinking about. It's a fascinating way to watch a game, and it's a nerve-wracking way to watch a game. But typically, there's a lot of open communication throughout any given drive, throughout any given quarter. You know exactly where you stand, how many breaks you need, what you're looking for. The key phrase is third down, we're looking. You don't know what that means, but in our world, what that means is it's third down, and if they get to fourth down, they punt, we're looking for a break, because that has to be communicated to the official on the field.
In advance,
They need to know. So there are signals put in place that when that punter is sitting back there in formation to kick, the referee is looking over at our orange sleeves, and he's got his hands crossed, because the ref needs to know that after this punt is fielded and the play ends cleanly, no flags, we're going to take a break. So that's the job, and it is fun, and you could get any game. As we sit here, I know that I'm assigned to the Broncos Colts next week, and I'll be doing that from my living room.
Yeah. Fantastic. It is, you got a lot on your plate,
It's
dude.
crazy, but it's fun.
Yeah. Speaking of the NFL, we had the NFL draft in Detroit, which was incredibly
Unbelievable.
successful. And I had the opportunity to sit down with Roger Goodell. Kind of disappointed, we did an interview for the Detroit Sports Commission. I had a role in that, and that was great fun. Kind of disappointed. My friend Roger hasn't called me, to offer me some of these opportunities with the league.
I know some of the right people. I know some of the right people.
But speaking of the NFL,
listen, you might be scared off if you sat through one of these games. Like, nope.
I probably would be. But also, I thought it interesting the other day, the question of the Super Bowl halftime show came up, and Goodell, on the subject of Taylor Swift, perhaps, it was kind of like, well, but maybe. So, I mean, that would be incredible for a Super Bowl if she were to perform at halftime. And you mentioned earlier about if the Lions should get there and looking at flights and tickets, and this year is in
San
Francisco.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if she were to perform?
Right. Yeah. People would buy tickets just for that.
Show. Oh my God.
There's no question people would buy tickets just for that.
The price of tickets, the demand for tickets, in addition to the fact that it's the Super Bowl and it's huge anyway, but oh my God. I just wanted to throw that out there because, why not?
Something to think about.
Yeah. What's next? I mean, what else? What else is there for you?
I think you have to figure out as you build a business how to scale the business.
Yeah.
And luckily, BVM gives you a lot of support in that regard. There are people who do more than one publication. I don't know if I want to do more than one publication, but there is a bit of a blueprint in place that there's that infrastructure support that could help you build. I'm kind of still at the stage, probably to a fault, where I'm very involved. And I'm still trying to set a standard.
But that's part of the reason why you've been so successful, though, because you are that engaged.
Thank you. So how do we duplicate that?
Well,
how do we get more people on the same page? And how do we train people the right way so that they're motivated enough to understand that we can make this bigger, more successful across multiple channels, but I need help.
Yeah.
So that's next. That is the true next question. And anybody who's got some good advice about that, and you've had a lot of people here, a lot of good business people on this podcast. So I'll be looking through there. I did reach out to Mick McCabe, by the way, for a little bit of advice. What a legend he is.
You talk about a guy with stories.
Oh my gosh.
He's got a million of them.
And I mean, that's the thing, that's among the things about this region that I miss so much, because he is a legend.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a gift. People like that, I think the community do appreciate. And it's the dedication to a specific thing, right? He was your high school expert.
Yeah.
And he was so dedicated to it. And he knew all of the communities, and he knew all the kids and the stories, and he knew how to balance it, and he knew which stories were real and were important to tell, and he knew where he was being run up the flagpole.
Right.
And he could make that decision. And what a great career. So I know he was one of your recent guests, and I reached out to him because we're still friends on Facebook. And I can't remember what snarky remark he made back to me, but it was something in Mick fashion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's one of a kind for sure. Congratulations on all the success. It's great to see you. It's great to have you back in our state. I'm glad we had the chance to connect to do this, to tell your story, which is going to continue to expand and be successful. I'm certain of that. But, from a personal standpoint, the friendship is meaningful to me. The time that we worked together at Channel 7 was, part of a wonderful career for me. You helped with that, certainly, and the others in the sports department. And it's just great to have you back and to know that you'll continue to come back because of Dahlia being at Michigan State. And I don't know what Olivia's plans will be after high school, but hey, maybe you'll have both of them in the state.
You never know. We're still getting through senior year. She's the captain of the volleyball team. So actually, this is a Friday that we're taping this, and we're missing the home opener tonight, but there'll be plenty of other matches that we get a chance to see.
Yeah, that's great. Great to see you. Thanks, Tom, for this.
Thank you.
Tom Leyden, the former sports director at Channel 7 here in Detroit, in Boston now, doing great things. Entrepreneur at heart now, for sure, with Westwood Living magazine. He's making great things happen in the community he lives in suburban Boston. We thank you for joining us today on the Dave LewAllen Podcast. As always, we are on YouTube, of course, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcasts. And one thing that's pretty exciting, we're entering a partnership with WJR Radio as well. They have a podcast platform for their interviews, for their segments, their shows, and they're building that out. thegreatvoice.com. So the Dave LewAllen Podcast is now part of thegreatvoice.com as well, which I'm really excited about. That was where I first worked in this business, so it's kind of a homecoming that way as well. So more about that in the weeks to come. But please subscribe. Please like this podcast. Share with your friends as well, especially this conversation with our friend Tom Leyden on the Dave LewAllen Podcast today. Thanks to Whitney Hunt today. She is filling in for Josh Bowron, our producer-director, on most days. Whitney, thank you. And most of all, thank you for watching and listening. And until next time, stay safe and be kind.